Well, welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Steven. So this week's blog's a little different than what I normally do when I try to tackle important issues of the day and Second Amendment jurisprudence and things along those lines. This one is more of an investigation of a social phenomena that's happened over the last basically month. Um, for those of you who are on the app TikTok, assuming that that thing still is around, um, there has been a viral video of a song called the Wellerman. Now, you can actually go to another YouTube search and type this in, and you're more likely than not going to find it. Or alternatively, when the blog comes out on Wednesday, there's going to be some embedded links to different versions of this song. It's got an interesting history, and I think that there's some stuff that requires a certain level of examination. A guy by the name of Nathan Evans in north of Glasgow, Scotland, young man, up until recently he had been a postal carrier, decided to make a sort of an a cappella sea shanty song video. Effectively, he just filmed himself singing a song called the Wellerman, which comes from whaling sea shanty song from New Zealand, interestingly enough, in the early part of the 19th century. It's kind of a catchy tune. This was kind of a, I guess you'd probably say it was a puff piece. I don't think he had any particular interest in having this thing go viral or anything along those lines. And yet, it did. Now, one of the interesting components of TikTok, which for those of you who are unfamiliar with TikTok, that is an application that was developed, and there's some interesting connections to the Communist Party in China's control of TikTok, and there was a bunch of fear that this was potentially being used to gather data on either American citizens or worldwide citizens. So much so that the government has essentially tried to divest the Chinese from that, and there's a whole backstory on that one. But one of the things that's interesting about it is that it allows users to add to the videos. Essentially, they can use the underlying information that an original producer put in and start putting their own spin on things, for lack of a better term. So when somebody's doing a video where they've recorded a song, another person can add a harmony to that song, or they can add a bass line to that song, or they can completely morph the song into something entirely different. Now, in a traditional world where we have copyright laws and all these different types of things, this would be impossible. But since this operates without any sort of intellectual property guideline, which for those of you who've studied the way that the Chinese are able to develop their technology, it's actually somewhat consistent with their methodologies there. It creates at least the ability for something greater to come from an initial idea. And this was no difference. People started adding to his sea shanty song. What's really interesting is that when you look at the different videos that I've included in the blog, you'll notice that all of the people that are adding and really candidly improving on the underlying work, they're all young people. And this isn't a rock song. This isn't some sort of modern ballad or anything like that. This is a frickin' sea shanty song from 200 years ago. And yet they're putting on their spins on it. They're putting instrumentals on it. There is this community involvement. It totally transcends cultural lines. It transcends gender lines. It transcends political lines. In fact, one of the fascinating things about it is that there is absolutely no political affiliations whatsoever. It's devoid of politics or agendas or anything along those lines. And it's candidly somewhat refreshing. I mentioned this in the blog. One of my commanding officers had originally said to me that a camel is a horse that was developed by committee. And I always thought that was kind of amusing because from a standpoint of collaborative work, those of you who have engaged in collaborative enterprises know it's usually kind of a pain in the ass. All right, it's sometimes just easier to do it yourself. But in certain instances, we see the development of informal systems of order. Things that work get incorporated in, and things that don't work are subsequently abandoned. And it's the actual users, it's the actual participants in a completely democratic way of doing things are allowing this to happen. It does say something about the antithesis of a central command model where all things being done are going through an editorial board before they're incorporated. This is something entirely different. It's organic. It's just really kind of freaking cool, to tell you the truth. So anyways, I hope you enjoy the blog. I hope you listen to the different versions that are out. It's going to get stuck in your head. I'm going to tell you that right off the bat. And congratulations to Mr. Evans for being able to produce something that has literally rocketed his career. So in any event, guys, as always, I want you to train constantly, train consistently, train repetitively, and train with purpose. Above all else, stay safe.